This is session 1.5, and it is the design. And we will look at Genesis 1 and 2, and we will see in Genesis 1 our unity as men and women made in the image of God, and in Genesis 2 we will see that we have been made diverse to fulfill a whole function. And it takes both parts, the complementary parts, to create the whole function. And we will also in this be dealing with the relational view of what it means to be made in the image of God. The Bible is a grand narrative. It is a primal or basic narrative to explain all of human existence. And we will see that our existence is an existence built on relationship. Before the creation of the world, there was community. There was the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, a community of three persons. Before the creation of the world, there was love. And it was love that bound this community together. Before the communication of the world, there was communication. And we will see as we look again at Genesis 1, 26 through 28, we are privileged here to have the curtains of eternity pulled back, and we can look through the window into eternity and listen to a conversation that went on in eternity past about the creation of men and women. So before the creation of the world, there was community, there was communication, and there was communion, an intimacy, a face-to-face communion and celebration. It's about the relationship between God and His creation, about the relationship between God and His people. It's a relationship between Christ and His bride. And it's a relationship between man and woman. This is an order, a relational order on so many levels. So Genesis 1 focuses on our being, our existence, our substance, our fundamental nature, our being as male and female in the image of God. Genesis 2, we begin to see a diversity of function, the unique design of male and female, uniquely designed for a shared purpose. So we begin by looking at Genesis 1. We are equal in being. We are the image of God. Humankind is the crown of creation. It's the high watermark of creation. And as we have looked elsewhere in this series, the crown of the crown is woman. Human beings are the high water mark of creation, but the high water mark of the high water mark is female. We were made male and female, and we were created not the same, but we were created equal. The origin is that we were made by God. Male and female have a common origin. We have the commonality of being imprinted in our lives by God's character and nature. We are not merely, as Darwin would say, or as evolutionism would say, we are not merely dumb animals. We are imprinted with the very nature of God. We are equal in the source of our identity. God named us and defined us as male and female. We are equal in the mandate, the cultural mandate of Genesis 1. We are equal in that it takes male and female to fulfill the cultural mandate. Genesis 1:26 through 28, and it says, "They shall rule." Who's the they? The image of God, male and female. They shall rule. It doesn't say he shall rule. So there is, in this mandate, it is for the kings and queens of creation to rule. We are equal in God's blessing. In Genesis 1:28, it speaks of God's blessing them to fulfill the mandate. We are equal in that we both have moral and rational agency. We are both free. We have been designed to be free moral agents. And we can say yes to God and we can say no to God. That's what freedom means. We are not little machines, we're not automatons, we are not puppets. God gave us freedom. And the freedom is so real that we can look at God and say no. That is real freedom. And women can say no, and men can say no. And we are equally free. We may say yes to God. And there is life. We are equal in that our communion with God has been broken. Male and female are sinners. And we are equal in the story of redemption, the work of Christ. In redemption, there is no male or female. Male and female come to the same God and the same work of Jesus Christ for redemption. And we are equal in that we stand in hope of the return of Jesus Christ, the future hope. Genesis 1:26 through 28 is where the cultural commission, the cultural mandate is given. And as we have said elsewhere in this series, there are three facets of our being made in the image of God, and these three facets are found in this mandate. Genesis 1:26, the first part of the mandate, says, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our image after our likeness.'" We are made like God. This is the structural view. It's the nature, all human beings, young and old, babies, old people, men and women, all of us are made in the image of God. And then the relational view, which is what we will be talking about in this session, this is community. We are made for community. And we find this in Genesis 1:27. "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him, male and female he created them." And then he's created us as community, male and female, made in his image for a purpose, for a function. And we read this in Genesis 1:26b and 28. This is the cultural commission. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over the livestock and over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. And God blessed them. And God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. This is the social commission. Fill the earth. Get married, form families, have children, create community, fill the earth, and subdue it and have dominion. This is the developmental mandate. It is people who develop the earth. It is families of people. It is, at some point, ethnos and nations of people. And subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heaven and over every living thing that moves on the earth. So here in these 3 verses, we find the cultural commission and we find what it means to be made in the image of God. And we really need to understand this today because it tells us who we are. Where do we find our identity normally? It's from our culture. And our culture tells us who and what we are. And for the most part, our culture tells us that men are superior to women. Women are objects to be conquered. And we live out this lie in our own lives and on the level of our own cultures. So we really need to take seriously Genesis 1 because it establishes who we are and why we are here. It establishes our identity. So there is a beginning here, a relational beginning, and it is the Trinitarian model, or you can call it the Trinitarian principle. Before the creation of the universe, God existed. One God and 3 persons. This is a very unique revelation among all philosophies and all religions. This revelation is absolutely profound because it establishes our unity and diversity in the human family. It brings a unity of the diversity of the human family, and it allows us to celebrate our distinctives, our uniquenesses. So it says, let us. It doesn't say, let me make man in my image. It says, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule. This is the Trinitarian model. This is the Trinitarian principle. One God, 3 persons. A unity without uniformity. A diversity without superiority. God is community, and He creates us for community. You have Adam, the unity, the humankind. This is the unity. And then in this unity, you have Ish for male or husband, and Isha, the diversity of female. This is the social view of the commission. The divine community creates a human community. And this community is required for both the social part of the cultural mandate and the developmental part. One man or one woman cannot fulfill either the social part or the developmental part of the mandate. It takes male and female to produce community, and it takes male and female to develop the earth, to create together, to discover together. Creation is manifested in binary relationships. In Genesis 1:1, heaven and earth. Genesis 1:4, light and dark. Genesis 1:5, day and night. Genesis 1:7, the waters above and the waters beneath. Genesis 1:10, the sea and the dry land. Genesis 1:16, the greater light and the lesser light. And then at the high point of creation, at the high water mark of creation, you see binary again. Man and woman, the crown of creation, male and female. It takes binary, this complementary relationship, to reflect community and to create community. It takes both to reflect God's divine nature, and it takes both to produce community. One man cannot fulfill the image of God, nor can two men fulfill the image of God. It takes male and female, and I cannot say this often enough, because most of our cultures are based on a sexist mentality. And it's either the embrace of that sexist mentality or the rejection of that sexist mentality that still elevates maleness over femaleness in the radical feminist movement. It takes male and female to reveal all that it means to be made in the image of God. The male and female manifest the integrated, comprehensive, complementary, transcendent nature of the triune God. A lot of big words, but they show the complementary nature of the family of the Trinity. The family is a united one, not a single one. It's not two individuals living under the same roof and living separate lives. We see that so often today in modern culture. You have two individuals, they may get married, may not get married, but they live in the same household, but they don't function as a community. They function as individuals and not the communion. Elizabeth Elliot puts it this way in her book, The Mark of Man. It tells us, too, that it took two different modalities to represent the divine image. It took male and female. This is the unity. This is the place of our equality. And now we go to Genesis 2, and the focus in Genesis 2 is of our diversity. And we cannot separate Genesis 1 from Genesis 2. They tell the wholeness, the completeness of the story. This is not a man's world. It's God's world. He has made them, or He has made us. And humankind is two complementary types of human beings, male Adam and female Adam. And they both have been gifted differently for their common task. They have been designed differently to function together for their common task. These are complementary roles and functions. They are different roles and functions, but they are of equal value and equal importance. Without both of these, the task given in the cultural commission cannot be fulfilled. A single male or maleness itself cannot fulfill the cultural commission. It takes male and female. to fulfill that commission. It takes that for procreation. And today in the postmodern world, the world is celebrating that men with beards can be pregnant. No, men cannot be pregnant. You can get a woman pregnant and give her hormones to grow a beard, but she is still a woman. It takes male and female to be procreative, to procreate. And it takes male and female fulfilling their unique giftings to fulfill the development mandate. In the cultural mandate, Adam male, the male Adam, will most fully manifest the paternal heart of God, while Adam female will most fully manifest the maternal heart of God. If we think only the male stature of brute strength is what counts, then we lose half of the universe. We lose half of what it takes to reflect the image of God, and we lose the ability to fulfill the cultural mandate. Together as the image of God, the purpose of their creation is to create godly culture and be vice regents, to govern in God's stead. We are here to govern. Who? Male? No. Male and female. Kings and queens. Queens and kings. We are here together to fulfill the cultural mandate as the vice regents of God. He has given us this place and said, "This is my world. I give it to you. Do something with it." We find God's character. He has the maternal heart and the paternal heart, both. The paternal heart is manifest largely in protection and other things. The maternal heart, the nurturer. Both aspects are conveyed in the creation order. When God made us in His image, He made us male and female to reflect His nature. Does this mean that a man has nothing of the nurturing nature, or the woman has nothing of the protective nature? No, it does not. But in man, the paternal heart of God is most fully manifested. And in the woman, the maternal heart of God is most presently manifested. And I've tried to illustrate that in this diagram, where you see the image of God. The man is the more protector.
I was lacking this father example, the father heart in my life, so to speak, in that sense. And I saw a lot of great things in my mother, but then again, in my environment, in the schools, in different areas of society, many times you hear that male is bad, male is toxic, male is violent and aggressive and oppressive and all kinds of things. So even guys or men start to be less men in that sense, because many times they're afraid to do things wrong.
But women protect their children. You don't want to see an angry mother bear. She will eat you alive. God's character is manifested in His creating as male and female. And male primarily reflects the paternal heart of God, the heart of the protector. The female is manifesting the maternal heart of God. This does not mean that a man has no ability to nurture, or that a woman has no ability to protect, but they have a, what would you call it, a strong propensity to be a particular way, and we need to celebrate that, but not make it an absolute thing. And that's what I have tried to show here in this diagram. The image of God, the woman is primarily the nurturer, but there is in the woman an element of protection. And the man is primarily the protector, but there is an element in the man of nurturing. So this isn't a black and white thing. It's a propensity to reflect a certain nature. Male and female are each involved in both spheres, the public sphere and the private sphere. But each has their primary responsibilities and their secondary responsibilities. The female's primary responsibility is in the domestic sphere. It is not her only sphere, but it is her primary sphere for nurturing the next generation, for nurturing her children, for governance of the home. She has a sphere of governance that is primarily hers. And she has a secondary obligation to be involved in the public sphere, where her voice needs to be heard in the public sphere for the sake of the future generations. The male, on the other hand, has a primary responsibility in the public sphere for governance, and secondarily in the domestic sphere in nurturing and raising the children. There's to be a dance here between the husband and the wife. They are each to support the other's primary role without usurping it, but to fulfill their own primary role in all of its glory. But there's a dance, there's a movement. You have the father heart of God, which we could describe as the eternal masculine, loving, self-sacrificing. This is agape love. The paternal heart of protector, provider, redeemer, kinsman, and headship of the wife. And we will see this in a later series. The husband is the head of his wife, but he is not the head of all women. This is not a sexist culture. It's a Trinitarian culture. It is modeled after the agency, the community of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Equally divine, equally glorious, but with distinct functions, roles, personalities. So the husband is the head of his wife, and we will discuss this significantly later. He is not the head of all women. That's the sexist mentality. And the wife is to respect her husband, her own husband. She is not under the authority of all men. That is sexist culture. So the father heart of God is the eternal masculine, and it is manifested most clearly in male. The mother heart of God, the eternal feminine, is loving and self-sacrificing as well, because that self-sacrificial love is what is the binding together of the Trinity. they love each other, and they sacrifice their own interests for the other. The eternal feminine is compassion, it's nurturing, it's succoring, it's the instructor, it's the teacher, it is the easer, the suitable helper. And we will be looking at that concept in detail in this series. There's a sacred mystery, and we find this in Genesis 2:24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. This is the combined one flesh, the Ehad, one flesh. And this is a sacred mystery. How can two be one? It is the sacred mystery of becoming one. We find the first wedding is the glorious finale of the creation story in the wedding of the first couple. They shall leave their parents' home and establish their own home. And they, as Adam and Eve, become a picture and a model for our lives. And they become a picture, a prologue picture of the final wedding at the end of history when Christ returns for his bride. So the Trinitarian pattern is Ehad, not Yaqid, the single absolute one. It is the Ehad, the united compound one. It is not unity by uniformity. That's egalitarianism. Unity by uniformity. There is no distinction. We are equal, which means we are interchangeable. We are the same. And it is not absolute diversity, which is the sexist model. We are different and male is superior to female. No, the Trinitarian principle is unity without uniformity, and it's diversity without superiority. These principles shape our lives together as men, as women, as husbands and wives within the larger community. God is the source of the paternal and maternal heart, and his paternal and maternal heart are transcendent patterns that become the pattern for male and female. Every child needs a male father and a female mother that can help them and who share their identity. Is this always happening? No. But what do we strive for? We strive to create a family where a man is a man and a woman is a woman, and the fullness of the nature of the image of God is manifested in that family, because that is when a child will come to flourish and become all that God intends for them to be. So the Trinitarian family of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit produces the human family, the mother, the father, and the child or the children. We were made to form families, and those families were made to rule, to govern creation.